Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair ragale, ni hao, chune shumme, washmale, ohaya gozaimasu, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shoma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside the very amazing Maha Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. Hello, Maha. How are you today?
Hello, Shazad. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I am good. And actually, I don't know, I'm in a really good mood today. Everything is really funny. And
Wow.
I feel like, it's the start of the week and we should start it with a positive note.
Exactly, and this is how we should always do it. And it's all about it's always about positive vibes as well.
Absolutely.
But other than that, how was your weekend?
My weekend, actually, it was quite nice. I've been quite busy because, I am planning to make a little bit of a trip soon.
Yeah.
So I've just been running around doing errands and then seeing like family and friends, but also trying to get my sleep. It's so hard to sleep in this heat these days.
Well,
How about you?
I think I've got a suggestion for that as
Yes,
well
tell
because
me.
I'm not yet over with my jet lag as well. So I think the only problem is that we are so much glued to our cell phones that we can't just keep them away, and that's one reason which I think that I am not able to fall asleep.
Okay, actually, you've been away, so you don't know, but I've been actively decreasing my screen time.
Wow, that's good.
I deactivated my Facebook. I kind of left all of the social media. I am back now because I have to do some work stuff.
So
But
you're not taking a lonely anymore.
No, I never took selfies. Like, I don't do selfies.
It's
not cool.
perfectly all right. So let's
Yes.
take a look at what's happening all around the globe, ladies and gentlemen. Top stories coming up.
Yes.
Good morning.
Pakistan has prepared its first indigenous satellite that will be launched next month. The weight of the satellite is 285 kilograms, and it will be helpful for research in geography, climate, and weather.
Wow, good news for Pakistan. Way to go.
Great. That's good.
What a good start to the week. Having our own satellites. Wow. And a giant sculpture made of pink and black flowers set the tone at Christian Dior's catwalk show in Paris, as new menswear designer Kim Jones stamped his style on the stored French label with a display of floral-inspired airy looks. Well, I think these kind of designs will work in Pakistan as well because it's too hot.
Yeah.
And when
No,
you
but
see
actually this-
flowers in good colors,
Yeah.
you feel great.
I know, it's actually really nice. I was actually hearing about him
So
yesterday.
why are they running on the runway?
Okay. And Zaza, the adopted English bulldog from Minnesota, was crowned top dog in the world's ugliest dog contest held in California. The 9-year-old dog's drooping tongue and broad legs captured judges' hearts.
I mean, I just think how would the owners actually feel about the dog
They-
winning the ugliest dog competition?
Well, they apply for it.
Yeah.
Man, you have to be realistic. If your dog is not cute, it's not cute.
Yeah. All right. Last but not the least, where Pakistan clinched 1 gold, 1 silver, and 3 bronze medals in the Borneo Open Junior Squash Championship in Malaysia. Wow, Pakistan!
Well done.
I'm so proud to be a Pakistani. And look at those kids, man. They're way young.
Yeah. Excellent. Good. So that was the top stories, and now we have a very important subject. We are going to be talking about workplace issues, focusing on mental health, because a lot of the issues that we face fall under mental health. Shazad.
Exactly. And then at the same time, there's one thing which I would love to mention, and that is that I've seen quite a lot of posts and articles very recently, and majority of the actors from Hollywood, Bollywood, or even from Lollywood as well, or even other people, they look very brave, they look very strong whenever they're talking with people, and I think this was one of the posts which you shared as well. But moments later, they actually gave up on their life as well. So you never know. And we did a show previous week as well where we were talking about in context to kids and they being pressurized just because of the fact that their parents want them to study harder. But it's a journey, it's not a race, and this is what we're trying to highlight today as well, that depression, anxiety, and all of these things get very unnoticed. Yeah, you can get away with that, and people will never know that there's something wrong with you, but it's always good to ask for help.
Absolutely, but within Pakistan, especially within the workplace environment, because of the way our culture is also structured, there's a lot of kind of blurring of lines, there's a lot of issues, and we see a lot of youngsters actually facing quite a lot of hurdles, which is causing extra stress, anxiety within themselves. So to discuss this issue, we've been joined by some wonderful guests, and we're going to be talking about the workplace-related mental health issues. We've been joined by Dr. Faisal Rashid. He is a psychiatrist. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
joining
very
us
much.
today.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Besides Dr. Faisal Rashid, we've been joined by Professor Taskeen Sayed. She is an educationist. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to start with Dr. Faisal. You know, as a psychiatrist, what are you seeing are the main key issues people are facing in the workplace at the moment?
Well, I think before we jump onto that, it's
Yes.
important to realize how important essential work is for a person.
Okay.
You see, you meet someone, you first thing you ask is their name, and second thing you ask is what do you do in life.
Yeah.
So it's such an essential component. Maybe we carry many identities, and it's a major identity that a person has, what he or she does. So and secondly, it forms a major portion of our lives. Nowadays we are working for maybe 10 hours, 11 hours a day, and so that's a substantial part.
Exactly.
And what happens in those 10, 11 hours, that definitely affects our physical health, it affects our mental health. Issues that you mentioned that can vary. We can have psychosocial issues, we can have mental health related issues, but majorly the injustices, the discrimination, being overworked, being underpaid, subtle manipulations like micromanaging, inequality in pay between men and women. So they are the major social stresses that can be there.
Exactly, they are. But you know, you just said a very interesting thing, and that is that for the very first time, whenever I see or meet new people, obviously they're going to ask my name, and the second question is, what do you do? So, and my reply is, I am a TV host. Okay, you're a TV host, but what do you do? I mean, this is our job, guys. Please make sure that, you know, you do not say the same thing again. And this is the reason why we are telling you that this is what we do. And there's no disparity amongst, you know, anybody who's a host or anybody who's actually a scholar, because of the fact that we put in our own hard work and they put in their own hard work, and they're set to do whatever they want to do. But other than that, moving on to you. Now, when we talk about stress, anxiety, depression, it's not just workplace as well. You know, I want to be very inclusive within this
Okay.
topic, because what happens is that, you know, when you're at home, you've got so many other responsibilities that you look forward to do or fulfilling them. But then eventually, if you fulfill one block, you miss out on the other one. And then naturally, anxiety comes and grabs you as well from the back. So what do we do? How do we plan our life on a daily basis?
I think tolerance is very important.
Okay.
You have to tolerate each other, and in doing so, be kind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we move towards kindness, love others. It is a humanity oriented practice, loving. And since we are Muslims, we believe in Allah.
Exactly.
And one of the major attributes of Allah is love. Love others, tolerate others, and also think about others' mental health.
Exactly. But it's
Okay.
simpler said than done, you know.
Okay,
So
yeah, can I just pick up
Sure.
on this? So I want to bring back Dr. Faisal into this. So now we're talking about this tolerance, acceptance, and all that. But in the workplace, you know, I agree. Don't want to take away from your point. We'll come back to that.
Sure.
But like you mentioned, that there's so many issues that can compound it. You know, there's underpaid or underappreciated, overworked. You know, all of these things. But how do we start to manage it? Because we are in an environment where the structures aren't as solid as they should be, where we are putting in these kind of mechanisms for psychological help, you know, having breaks, having a counselor, having people to rely on. How do we operate within such an environment?
Obviously, it's
Because then, like Shazad said, you have to go home, and then that's other stresses as well, you know, paying the bills, getting people money, food, all that stuff.
yeah, you see, everything is linked. Your personal problems, they are linked to your professional problems, and vice versa. So obviously, you need to have a culture where you recognize that there is something called mental health, and people can have mental health problems.
Right.
It's not just that they're having problems in their personal lives, and that will affect their work, but there can be problems related to their mental health, like depression, anxiety, that can affect their productivity.
Okay, perfect.
You see, there's a whole economic theory behind it now. World Bank has included mental health as one of the indicators of global development priority. So it has been it has now evidence based that $1 of investment in mental health gives you a return of $4.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because once your mental health is compromised, it decreases your productivity at work, it affects your relationships at work, at your home, it affects your job performance, you lose your ability to earn more. You also, the workplace also suffers because its employees, they have decreased efficiency. People report problems related to absenteeism, and plus the conflicts at the workplace.
Okay.
All right, that's just great.
Dr. Saab, could I possibly ask you a question?
Well, it depends what it is, because we're here to ask the questions.
You know, what I feel is that in our social setup, there is a problem. If I have depression, I will not admit it before others. Why is that so? Is that so that mental health awareness is not right?
I think this is a very pertinent question as well,
It
because
is, but-
half of the time this is why we lose people, because they can't open up and they can't share what the problem is. So what do we do and why?
Again, as
But is it the social construct?
yes, it is. There's stigma attached to mental health. You see, this is the biggest barrier, that people don't open up. People don't disclose their mental health problems, because once they do, they are labeled. They are discriminated against. They might lose their job. So this insecurity acts as the biggest barrier for people at workplace to disclose their problems.
So now the thing is, we know the social stigma attached to it. We've done multiple shows over on it for the last, even we talked about it last week as well. But what I want to know is that, okay, so I don't want to keep rehashing the issues. You know, how do we now move forward within the workplace environment? Like, as you aptly mentioned, that productivity is affected. You know, if you have depression, you know, people get sick a lot. You know, there's different ways it manifests itself. So how do we start moving forward, and how can organizations, you know, without, you know, not the fake, not the superficial, you know, putting the bandage on, how do we actually get to the root cause?
Teamwork.
Okay. No, but how do we get to that? It's very easy to throw these words around. So let's have some structure and let's discuss it like that. So we'll start with Dr. Rashid, then we'll move on to Professor Taskeen.
I think realization at the top.
Right.
Realization that these problems exist, and having a culture in the workplace where people have forums where they can go and discuss their problems. The peer group, where people give importance to such issues and they can discuss in open manner, and without the fear of losing a job, without the fear of having put a label on. At the same time, what organizations can do is to have skills building, capacity building, workshops, seminars in their workplace, so that people know when the problem starts, where to get help from, and fourthly, having a proper referral system. If somebody at the workplace is having a mental health problem, what can the organization do? Are they going to compensate? Are they going to help the person to reach out to a mental health professional?
Absolutely.
And I think all of these things should actually be written in a handbook. You know, for example, when you go to a university or to a college, they'll hand you a handbook that, you know, these are the things which you can do, or these are the things which you cannot do. So the organizations need to come up with a rule book as well. That, okay, you are allowed these many vacations, you know, this is paid leave. And this will relax quite a lot of other people as well, because half of the time when we are at work, We just don't even know how things work over there. So please make sure that you do your thorough study. But now, ma'am, I have a different question for you. And the question is that, for example, since you're an educationist as well, you're a professor yourself, whenever we are in universities, as a student, I've witnessed that, obviously the vice chancellor is very, he's got a dictating personality, then comes the head of department, and then there's a complete hierarchy. But individuals vary from other individuals. For example, somebody has a very brave nature, he's strong going and he knows what his focus is and he's going to achieve that. Then there are other people who are being dominated by other people at workplace, nonetheless, that, even if they are lower in the hierarchy as well. And then other people, since they're so modest and humble, they can't just get their work straight as well. So what would you recommend for all of those people who just come under pressure naturally? It's just like having a sweet dish right in front of you.
For example, yeah, like Shazad doesn't get stressed. I get stressed. Like, so there's some people who are more easy.
Like I've got 31 years of teaching experience. I'm very senior. When I see somebody under pressure, I try to go near that person.
Okay.
I love that person. And I encourage that person to come out
All right.
and share with me. It is very difficult for them, forget that person,
Out, yeah.
to come out and share with me the problem.
Because then there are trust issues at workplace.
No, the stigma, as Dr. Saab said.
No, but stigma
that's the
is
problem,
when the
isn't
person
it?
comes out, Well, I mean, till the time when the person's not out, he or she's not sharing, how can we decide?
Trust deficit is there.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You have to build the trust.
Okay.
And like the colleagues I have, I'm always loving them.
Very nice.
I'm always kind to them.
So do you want that love back as well at times?
No,
Okay, how can that happen?
because I feel they're all human beings.
Yeah.
If I love them, it is not necessary that they should love, I should get return of that love.
Okay.
Okay, for
So
that, I
that's
think
what
we need to ask Dr. Saab over here.
Yes.
So now, Dr. Saab, if I keep on loving someone for the longest period of my life, and there comes a moment in my life when I probably just need 100,000 rupees, I give that person a call, because over these years I wasn't really expecting, that's what people say, but that's the person who is actually going to
so confused,
pop up in your head, that okay, I might call him for help. And when he or she declines, you are heartbroken. You're like, what did I do? Why did I even do that? Why did I even spend my time
It
rather
causes
than
more
spending it with my family?
insecurity, yeah.
So, and that's when you get under more stress.
Yeah.
So what to do there?
You see, I think support is the right term that we use. It's peer support, people supporting each other. Just asking somebody that you look upset today, what happened? You see, we conduct these workshops for stress management for different groups, and very often we find that people working in the same workplace, and when people open up in a group, they get to realize that this person with whom I've been working for last 5-6 years, she has an ailing mother, she's bedridden, she has to take care of her once she goes home, and she remains irritable at work, she's very moody, she is not able to sleep properly. They never knew about this stressor because they never asked. So simply asking the person, simply providing support. You see, there are many problems in life which are not solvable, but it's a human nature. When we talk to someone, we feel lighthearted, we feel supported, we feel connected. So it's very important, maybe once a month.
Okay,
if
that's
the-
good that you said important, but this is not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, for example, if you are part of a support system for somebody else and they kind of, didn't do that or they didn't reciprocate the same thing, you feel stressed then.
So you share that they're
feel
not
that you have
helping.
been betrayed or something of that sort. So how do we cover that?
You feel exposed, basically,
Yeah.
when you turn to someone who's supposed to be helping you, and then actually they're not helping you, and maybe it's actually a negative thing as a result.
Keep doing things for others, don't expect.
Yeah, that's
No,
great.
but that's fine,
great.
but that's harder to put into practice. So we're just talking about the psychological aspects of doing it. So tell us.
Obviously, you feel betrayed,
Okay.
Yeah.
you feel disheartened, So it's also important. That's how we learn in life. That who is the person we should be talking when we are really stressed out. I see a patient who tells me that she has different people for discussing different problems. So it's very important to recognize a trusted family member or a trusted work colleague with whom you can share your problems.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the feelings that you mentioned, they're very natural and they frequently happen.
I mean, you know what? It even happens to me. For example, if I see that somebody has actually checked my message on WhatsApp and I could see the blue ticks and they haven't replied, I feel bad.
I know
Or
it
probably
hurts.
if they are online on Facebook and they're not replying me, I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Okay.
So, ma'am, quick recommendations for what to do and how to have a happy life.
Very quickly.
A happy life. If you go to a Jew psychiatrist, the first question he will ask you, do you pray? Which our psychiatrists don't do.
Different practices.
Believe me, it has helped me a lot. Reading the Quran, every word of Quran is shifa, is health giving.
Exactly.
And praying.
Alhamdulillah.
Believe me, it has helped me. I'm a human being. I've been through a lot of stress. And I attended a stress management workshop and they said, please say at least farz namaz.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so spirituality is important. How about yourself? What would you recommend to everyone? Because we didn't even touch upon the women and the harassment or anything.
Yeah.
But what would be your recommendations to handle workplace stress?
Well, I think at organizational level or a bigger level, we must have places where we promote positive mental health, where people can function in the most efficient manner. They don't feel threatened by disclosing their problems. They have support structures in place. It's important to realize these minor things where somebody is getting intimidated, somebody is overworked, deadlines are set which cannot be met, and there's role confusion.
Yeah.
It very so often happens that people are not sure about their job description.
Exactly.
That leads to further stress.
Absolutely.
And women, we haven't touched upon that because over last decade,
Yes,
huge
exactly.
workforce has entered our labor
Yes.
work. And so what about maternity leaves? What about daycares at the workplace? What about flexible working hours? Are we providing that? If we are not, we are adding to their stress and it's leading to negative impacts.
And we will get you back and we will talk about these issues. But thank you so much for being here today. We've run out of time, so we will come back to you guys.
Inshallah, next time.
Absolutely. So that was talking about workplace mental health and the stresses and how to cope with it. And we did very briefly touch upon different elements. And it's about training, not just for the people who are going into the workplace, also senior management training. and all
Exactly.
these things.
And alongside that, doctor mentioned a very positive thing, and that is that you should actually know what your job is. I mean, get yourself a piece of paper, ask the company what your job orientation is, and then just stay within the lines.
Yes.
And don't go beyond that, and don't fall short of it as well.
Exactly. On that note, we're going to go for a short break. But when you come back, we're going to lighten the mood and have some laughs and talk about what's happening within Islamabad and Pakistan.
Let's do it. Good morning. right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for everybody who just got tuned into PT World. You watching World this morning alongside Muhammad Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. Today, ladies and gentlemen, earlier in the first segment, we were talking about
Lots of things.
yeah, it was a very interesting conversation, but I think that we didn't really do justice with it because
Yes.
we were falling short of time as well. We
Yes.
had another segment, there were people waiting, and this amazing guy, whenever I see him, because I started my career from a place where he was working already, and since that time, since the moment I've met him, I've always been very fond of him as well because of the fact that he brings versatility to his work as well. He's a stand-up comedian, he's a theater actor, he's a writer, he's a producer. He's wearing too many hats. He's none other than Mr. Fahim Azam, and he's here to discuss role of comedy in society. Hello, how are you? Assalamu alaikum.
I'm good. I've heard that intro before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought it was a pretty good one. I was like, thank God I didn't, because I was going to say Fahim Azam, comedian, artist. That's it.
That suffices.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us today. And besides Fahim, we've been joined by Umair Shahid, who is our musician. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry I didn't do you justice with the introduction. But now, Shazad, why don't you ask
All right,
first
so I'm
question?
going to get started. So, it's very basic. I mean, I don't even have to get started with you. Role of comedy in society.
Yeah, I really don't think, if that's the question, I don't think comedy has a lot of responsibility to play in changing of the society. Society itself has a lot of responsibility, and comedy and such dimensions, such elements could be used as tools, as means. So. You don't blame means for how your society have become. So we've become a type of society where we're less intolerance, where we're hiding truths, where we're the kind of people who are very used to, who've become sort of attuned to the kind of arguments that we've been fed all of our
So you're trying to
lives.
say once we are outside the house, we are different people.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that the kind of society that we've become, we have to look at the society and then we have to see what needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. So, because now the debate that's been going on, and we've also had this discussion, is that, it's comedy about holding up a mirror and just kind of showing the reflections, or does it have a role to say change things? But you've just said it.
I mean,
doesn't have-
tragedy has the same role, comedy has the same role. Everything that we do, everything that we're able of, we could put that to use to bring positive change to the society, or even a negative change to the society. I mean, we could play our role. Now, where comedy comes in handy is what I'm going to talk about. Where it comes in handy is that when news channels, for instance, the talk shows, the current affairs, it could all, you can play with it. It can be one side of the story or the other side of the story. You could play with that. Comedy generally tends to deal with the truth. It can't be much funny if it isn't very truthful. It's just a dynamics. And secondly, because you have to, yes, sorry.
I'm sorry that I'll have to stop you over here, but ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to rush towards a short commercial break, and when you guys are going to come back, he'll actually be wearing a jacket. Let's do it. Good morning.
Welcome back, everyone. And we had to go for a short break, but we had cut you off. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
Yeah,
continue
comedy
forward.
coming in handy.
Yeah, so I was saying that comedy generally tends to come to life with truth.
Okay.
And also, when you discuss process of comedian, specifically a stand-up comedian, where you have to write your own material and it doesn't deal with latife, jokes, chutkale, that comes from a very deep part of your life. You know, it has to deal with a lot of your own realities or hypocrisies. That's where the humor comes from. Or satire, or sarcasm. So all of these things, they require a lot of understanding of what it is. The truth comes out through comedy.
Even though a lot of people do not agree to that, but I think the first name comes to my mind is Kevin Hart as well for that, because whatever he says is based upon his own life and experiences, and when
that's
and
true
he's been a
with
hypocrite
most.
as well.
That's true with most stand-up comics, and I think that's where it comes handy, because that's where it allows you to say the harshest of things without being angry, or without fuming. It's sort of a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Sort of
It's a different way
theory.
of saying.
It's so true, and that's a really good point. But on that note, I'm sorry, we're gonna get Umair to.
So, Umair, how important do you think it is to, go see a theatre play, laugh a lot? And who do you think is your favorite theatre actor from Pakistan? Because these days, even on these talk shows, I mean, thank you to these talk shows as well, that our theatre actors are doing very well now as well. Who's your favorite, and what kind of comedy do you like?
Well, I like stand-up comedy in Pakistan, like the old artist Moin Akhtar, Saab.
I thought you might say Nasir Chinoti Saab, all of these interesting people. Why not?
They are interesting.
I love them.
Because they are like come up with a new face in the programs.
Yes.
Like Hasbe Al, these kind of programs. I like that.
Okay.
I used to like
So
watch
do you,
that.
so
Okay,
do
no,
you
wait.
have a song prepared in?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
I have questions too.
Okay,
for
go
that.
ahead, Ma,
But do you think right now in the current, especially with our generation, that comedy is actually within our society, or are we lacking humor these days?
Yeah, we are liking.
Okay, great. And on that note, let's play a song.
I
Okay.
don't think so, though. I've got a
We'll talk
different
about it. We're
feeling
going to
here.
talk about it.
See, he's already smiling.
एतबार भी आ ही जाएगा, मिलो तो सही, रास्ता कोई मिल ही जाएगा, चलो तो सही, चलो तो सही, एतबार भी आ ही जाएगा, मिलो तो सही, रास्ता कोई मिल ही जाएगा, चलो तो सही, चलो तो सही. क्या हुआ अगर जिंदगी जरा भूल सी गई, सोचो तो जरा, जंगलों में भी रास्ते तो हैं, हमें भी कोई मिल ही जाएगा, चलो तो सही, चलो तो सही, प्यार भी हो ही जाएगा, मिलो तो सही, रास्ता कोई मिल ही जाएगा, चलो
it.
Thank you so much.
I mean, this is one of those songs which I think I might have heard around 800,000 times.
Okay,
But this
wonderful.
was a great one.
But picking up from the last question, these days within Pakistan, do we have a sense of humor or are we lacking humor?
I think we're seriously lacking tolerance to humor because we're generally lacking tolerance,
Okay.
and that is why we can't. I mean, it's difficult for us to take a hard joke, a difficult joke. Other than that, I mean, of course, there are, as Shahzad was mentioning, that we have a form of comedy, theatre, Punjabi, then in Pushto as well, and Saraiki. There are a lot of flavors of humor that exist in Pakistan, and I think people laugh a lot. There's no denying that people laugh a lot. But what we're talking about
Yeah.
is the humor coming through formal humor,
Okay.
coming through artists, scripts, writing. I mean, we're not talking about friends hanging out and just having a laugh.
Yeah.
So talking about that, that requires a subject to be talked about,
Okay.
an issue to be talked about, or a side of personality to be talked about. So some people would, the shock that we get from the humor, the jokes, where an idea is presented that we don't agree with, we generally lack tolerance to that.
Yeah,
But
for
you, okay, sorry.
Yeah, the only shock which I get is, and you're very right. At times it is very hard. For example, people these days, because I'm sorry, but these are the people I watch. Russell Peters and Kevin Hart and all of these people. So in between their act, what they'll do is that they'll probably pick up on someone from the audience as well, and then make a joke or two about it. So first of all, how ethical do you think it is to actually include people who are sitting right in front, and then the stadium packed of people, and then you're on the screen, so you feel ashamed, and then there are people who body shame you as well, trying to joke, and it seriously gets tougher to actually absorb the joke.
Because even this discussion is happening abroad as well. Do you draw a line? Because even Dave Chappelle, you have all these, even Kevin Hart, they've been getting into trouble a
Yeah.
little bit for their sets.
I think you come into the show prepared for a few things.
Okay.
If you're unprepared for it and something happens which is uncalled for, unexpected. Now, if you go to these shows, you would expect, for instance, taking from our own example, in Karachi, we had started this thing called Comedy Scene, where it was for budding stand-up comedians. So people whoever would want to perform, we'd help them write or help them perform. But a time came when some of the performers wanted to do acts, do sets which could be offensive to a few people. Now that became a challenge because our shows were family friendly, our shows were meant to be presented to a wider audience so that comedy spreads. But if such kind of sets, we don't have the authority, or we can't limit people from expression. We can't limit them from saying what they want to say. But maybe this wasn't the right kind of platform for it. So what we did was we started off another platform which was called Fitna, Fasad aur Mohabbat.
All right.
And that was meant for comedy that can be offensive. Now the audience is new already that it can happen.
Says.
Yeah, so it just says it. So if you're ready for it and you come in as an audience, then really there's no space. The ethical dimensions don't come into play much. This conversation will keep happening because, for some time at least, because people throughout the world have become very sensitive, aware, and as they say, woke to a lot of things, to a lot of things that we weren't very sensitive towards previously. And we're also learning, so we're learning how not to body shame, we're learning how not to be racist, we're learning how not to be all of these things.
Exactly.
And then there's a new conversation brewing, which is how much should one get offended? You know? Are we going? Are we crossing the line of getting offended as well by things, of being sensitive towards all these things? I think so. These conversations are great. Will keep happening. I'm just hoping that comedy helps, or anything helps it not to become polarized. For us to not to become polarized as much as we're becoming. We're dividing as a society. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one last thing. I'm sorry, Mom. One last thing, but it's
I know
bugging.
everyone woke
It's
up this
bugging my
morning.
head.
No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
I mean, it's two things. So first of all, since I've
One
seen
thing.
you, okay, one thing. Okay, two things in one. So
I'll try to put it in one.
I've seen one of your videos as well over the internet. It was very hilarious. I found it very funny. But the medium of conversation was mixed. It was Urdu and it was English. And then we have even met Saad. You know, he's been on the show. So majority of the stand-up comedians are picking up for English to be a medium to convey whatever they want to convey. Now, what will you recommend for them, whether to write in English and then convey in Urdu, or to write in English and convey in English, and then does it matter? Does it affect?
Where's the second question?
Oh, yeah, this is the second part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, medium language, you leave it to the performer, because a performer speaks.
For Pakistan only.
No, a performer speaks their heart out. So if they can do it in Saraiki, they do it in Saraiki.
Yeah.
And I think they do it better in Saraiki if they can speak their heart out, if they can write in Saraiki. So you leave it to them. I think English in Pakistan is good because people who perform in English take a wider audience for Pakistan.
Yeah.
So they are able to cater to a wider audience, and they're a voice of Pakistan. So I think it's great. But comedy in Urdu, which I prefer generally, is that I'm speaking to Pakistanis. So I sort of get a deeper penetration to my Pakistani crowd. So I mean, it all has its own benefits.
that's
as
Yeah,
just
well.
great.
wonderful.
Thank
and
you very
also,
much.
we are running short of time, so one final question is that, you know, we are seeing the scenes pick up. You know, a lot of independent efforts are being made. So now we're seeing the rise of female comedians. And we had a whole show on this before as well, with Sana was here.
Okay, fantastic.
I remember.
Yeah.
So now, you know, you have all these different kind of troops being kind of created. You have them in Karachi, of Aratna, Khwawatuns, etc.
And you did one too as well.
We will be doing one,
Yeah.
inshallah. But how do you think that scene is? Do you think it's a safe environment for women to be getting out there? Because the subject matter is not what people are going to be used to. You know, it's girls talking to girls, boys talking to boys about it, you know, but together and highlighting these things. How do you think?
I hope, you know, this happens
I
together.
think it's been safe so
Yeah.
far,
Okay.
because we have been performing, or the girls have been performing to an audience which is quite attuned to such material and such environment. I think so, which is good, which is an opening.
Okay.
You know, and it's important that we open this space,
Okay.
and we open it further and we stretch it to we test its limits. But I think the majority of Pakistan, it is going to be hard for them to digest a lot of that kind of material, that kind of culture where women come out and they express.
Very open.
It's very open, and just women expressing is something that offends us a lot.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay.
So I mean that needs to
That's so
change.
true.
Yeah.
That needs to change, and that will only change when we reach a wider audience. And maybe we'll have to look at the kind of content that we do. Maybe we'll have to make it softer. We'll have to make it.
So basically spoon feed.
Initially,
Just
I
a
mean, so
little.
it's step by step.
Just
It's
a
baby
little.
steps we're talking about. Basically, we're talking about baby steps. So, but we need to take these baby steps. We can't do without them. You know, we could shock the audiences. We could shock the crowd
Well,
by
let's,
giving them what they're not ready for. But really, I
Okay.
mean,
let's leave that to our politicians as well, if you need a shock. But you know, I think that they can be very amazing stand-up comedians as well.
Absolutely. So anyway, on that note, thank you so much for being here today. And we are going to ask Omer to lead us out with his last track as well.
But before you do that, you just get ready, you know, get your fingers on the frets. Meanwhile, we say our goodbyes. So
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you write to us on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of,
Well this morning.
on Twitter,
Well this morning without a G.
on Dailymotion and YouTube.
Well this morning.
And this fabulous repeat's going to be at
11:05 p.m. in the evening. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It was very interesting. We will see you bright and early tomorrow morning.
Inshallah. Let's do it, Amar.
There's a dream in my soul, a fire is deep inside me. There's a me no one knows, waiting to be set free. I'm gonna see the dead. I can feel it, I can taste it. Change is coming my way. I was born to be somebody. and nothing that's ever gonna stop me. I'll light up the sky like lightning. I'm gonna rise above, show what I'm made of. I just want to be somebody. I just want to be, 'cause this world belongs to me. This life can take your eye. This world can make you feel small. They will not keep me down. I was born to stand tall. I'm going all the way. I can feel